boys and girls, this is Miss Colville, and this lesson is for all 5th graders at Bethune Elementary. I'm teaching the lesson today on multiplying fractions in word problems. And the standard that we will be covering is NF6. Solve real-world problems involving multiplication of fractions and mixed numbers by using visual models or equations to represent the problem. So at the end of this lesson, you will be able to use number lines, picture models, and area models to help you multiply fractions. So let's get started. So let's read the first question. Grayson lives 4/5 mile from the park. He has already walked 3/4 of the way to the park. How far has Grayson walked? Now the first thing you might think is I need to subtract. But in today's lesson, we are learning how to find a fraction from a fraction by using multiplication. A says you can draw a model to help you solve the problem. Locate a point on the number line below to show what fraction of a mile Grayson lives from the park. So we see that our number line is broken into how many equal parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's broken into 5 equal parts. Now our statement tells us that Grayson lives 4/5 mile from the park. So let's go ahead and draw where 4/5 of a mile is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It is right here. So this is 4/5 mile from the park. So we counted our number line and we see that it's broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. So we see that 4/5 of a mile will be right here. B tells us label the point to show the distance to the park, which is what we do. So C says shade the segment that shows 1/4 of the distance to the park. 1/4 of the distance is what part of the mile? And we're going to label this distance. So we know that his house is 4/5 from a mile to the park. So we're going to see how many equal parts is 4/5 broken into. It is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So again, the amount of distance from his house to the park is 4/5 and is broken into 4 equal parts. So now it says, what would 1/4 of the distance to the park be? So if we know that this distance is broken into fourths, 1/4 of the distance is right here. So if 1/4 of the distance is right here, this is 1/4. Let's see what part of the distance this compares to our entire mile. So this is 1 mile. So 1/4 is equivalent to 1/5 mile. So let's go ahead and write 1/5 in this space right here. Now D asked us to find 2/4 of the distance to the park. So again, if we're finding the distance from the park to his house, we know that that's 4/5 miles. So 2/4 would land us 1, 2, right here, 2/4. So let's go ahead and mark that now. This is 2/4. Now 2/4 miles distance from the park is how many miles in distance for the entire mile? So it's 1, here's 1/5, this will be 2/5. So let's go ahead and mark 2/5 in our next space. E says 3/4 of the distance to the park is how much of an entire mile? So 3/4, 1, 2, 3/4 right here is equivalent, 3/4 right here is equivalent to 1, 2, 3/5 of the entire mile. So we're going to write 3/5 in this space. F tells us to explain how you can use the model to show how far Grayson has walked. So my constructive response should say, you can see that each 1/4 of the mile, because again, the distance from his house to the park is broken up into fourths. So each 1/4 of a mile of the way is equivalent to 1/5 of a mile away. So 3/4, which is right here, is equivalent to 3/5 of the entire mile. Let's turn to the next page. So let's consider the problem from the previous page. The distance you needed to find is a fraction of a fraction, 3/4 of 4/5 mile. On the previous page, we used a model, which was a number line, to find this distance. You can also use an equation or a form of standard algorithm to find a fraction of a fraction while multiplying fractions. So finding 3/4 of a number is the same as multiplying the number by 3/4. So that means 3/4 right here of 4/5 means 3/4 times 4/5. Two fractions, you multiply the numerators to get the numerator of the product and multiply the denominators to get the denominator of the product. This method is standard algorithm. So I know that if I multiply 3 times 4, I get 12. And if I multiply 4 times 5, I get 20. The fraction 12 over 20 is equivalent to 3/5. To find equivalent fractions, you multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator of the fraction by the same number. This process is called simplifying. So if I want to simplify 12 over 20, I need to divide by the same number that will give me 3/5. So I know if I divide 12 divided by 4, I will get 3. Now I need to divide the denominator by that exact same number. So 20 divided by 4 will give me 5. I have now found my equivalent fraction of 3/5. So I know Grayson has walked 3/5 mile. The product 3/5 is less than 4/5, so it is a reasonable number. When you multiply 4/5 by a factor less than 1, the product should be less than 4/5. So at this time, our reflection tells us which method, drawing a model or writing an equation, made more sense to you for solving this problem. So you're going to look back at the first page and you're going to say, did the number line method make more sense, or did the standard algorithm method make more sense? And in this space below, you are going to write that out in complete sentences and tell me why. Do that at this time, and then let's move to the next page. So we are now going to explore different ways to understand how to find a fraction of a fraction. The other ways we just used were standard algorithm and number line. This method on this page will show us how to use picture models. So the question says, Brandon's mother left 3/4 of a pizza on the counter. If Brandon eats 2/3 of it, how much of the whole pizza did Brandon eat? So you can draw a picture to help us understand the problem. So this picture model right here shows us the 3/4 of the pizza that was on the counter. So again, this is a whole pizza, but it's only showing us 3/4 of the pizza that Brandon's mother left him. Since Brandon eats 2/3 of what is left, outline 2 of the 3 pieces that are left. And they're right here outlined in blue. So you can see from the outline parts how much of the whole pizza Brandon ate. So we can see that from the whole pizza, Brandon ate 1/2 of the whole pizza. So it says you can write an equation to help you understand the problem. So you need to find a fraction of a fraction, 2/3 of 3/4 of a pizza. So that means 2/3 of 3/4 means 2/3 multiplied by 3/4. And if we use this method, we're going to use standard algorithm, where you multiply your numerator by your numerator, 2 times 3, and your denominator by your denominator, 3 times 4. And you should write down, what will that give us, boys and girls? Write it down in this space right here. All right, boys and girls, so now you will solve the problem from the previous page using both strategies. So let's look at number 2. It says, look at picture it, which is right here. This is what your previous page has. Why did you outline 2 of the 3 parts of the pizza? So that's right here. So why did we outline 2 of the 3 parts of pizza? Go ahead and write that down in your own words. So your constructed response should read as follows. And remember to restate the question. I outlined 2 of the 3 parts of the pizza Because the problem says that Brandon eats 2/3 of what was left. Number 3, how much of the whole pizza did Brandon eat? Explain your reasoning. Write your answer down now. Your constructed response should sound like this. And again, make sure you are writing incomplete sentences and restating the question. Brandon ate 2/4 or 1/2 of the whole pizza. The whole pizza is divided into 4 equal parts. Brandon ate 2 of the 4 parts of the whole pizza. 4, look at model it, which will be right here. How do you know that you should multiply 2/3 times 3/4? So you're going to look at this area right here, and you're going to tell us, how do you know that you should multiply 2/3 times 3/4? Write your answer in the space below. Your response should say, I know that I should multiply 2/3 times 3/4 because I need to find 2/3 of 3/4 of a pizza. To find a fraction of a fraction, you multiply. So again, you always have to multiply when you have to find a fraction of a fraction. So 2/3 of 3/4 of a pizza, we will multiply. What is 2/3 times 3/4? So again, boys and girls, when we multiply fractions, we can do so by using standard algorithm. And by doing so, we have to multiply our numerator by our numerator and our denominator by our denominator. So our numerator is 2 times 3. 2 times 3 gives us what, boys and girls? 6. 3 times 4 gives us 12. So our answer will be 6/12. Is this product the same as your answer to the problem 3? So again, we're going to see if this product, 6/12, is the same as our answer to problem 3. And the answer we got for problem 3 was 2/4 or 1/2. If so, explain. So go ahead and work that out at this time and write your answer in the space below. All right, so for number 5, your response should state the product 6/12 is the same as the answer to problem 3 because 6/12 is equivalent to 2/4 or 1/2. Number 6, what strategies can you use to solve a word problem that involves multiplying fractions? Answer that in the space below. So your response should say, the strategies you can use to solve a word problem that involves multiplying fractions are picture models to represent the problem or writing an equation. Now you will use what you just learned about finding products of fractions to solve these problems. Show your work on a separate sheet of paper or on the back of this sheet of paper. Number 7 says, Lewis walked 9/10 of a mile. His friend walked 2/5 of the way with him. How many miles did Lewis' friend walk with him? So again, you can either draw a model or you can use standard algorithm to solve this problem. Do so now and write your answer in the space below. So I decided to write an equation for number 7. So I wrote on the side 9/10 times 2/5. And again, if we use standard algorithm, we multiply our numerator by our numerator and our denominator times our denominator. So our numerator times our numerator, 9 times 2, will give me what? It'll give me 18. And 10 times 5 will give me 50. So 18/50 will be my answer. Now I can simplify 18/50. Now if you think, what number can I divide evenly by my numerator and my denominator to make my fraction a little bit smaller? So I think I can divide 18 by 2. I know I can divide 18 by 2. And I can divide 50 by 2. So the like fraction that I would divide both my numerator and my denominator by will be 2. So I'll divide them by 2/2. 18 divided by 2 gives me 9. 50 divided by 2 gives me 25. So my answer, my final answer, will be 9/25. Keep in mind, 18/50 is still correct as well. But 18/50 simplified is 9 over 25. Now let's go to question 8. Question 8 says, Jamie worked 5-6 hours filing papers for her mother. She listened to music for 2/5 of the time she spent filing. How much time did Jamie spend listening to music? So let's go ahead and again, let's use our standard algorithm to solve this problem. So we have 5/6 of an hour times 2/5 of an hour. And again, our standard algorithm tells us that when we multiply our numerator times our numerator. 5 times 2 is 10. And our denominator times our denominator. 6 times 5 is 30. So 10 over 30 would be my final answer. Now I'm going to think, what can I do to simplify 10 over 30? What can I divide my numerator by and my denominator by to make my fraction a little bit smaller? Go ahead and think and show your work at this time. So I know that I can divide my numerator and my denominator by 10 evenly to make my fraction simplified. So if I divide 10 by 10, I can get 1 as my numerator. And if I divide 30 by 10, 3 will be my denominator. So my simplified answer will be 1/3. So again, boys and girls, 10 over 30 is correct. But for us to simplify it, 1/3 will be our simplified answer. So go ahead and write that down in the space below. Boys and girls, make sure that you are writing down all scratch work and answers and constructive responses in your packet.